Hello everybody. This yoga video is a little bit of a mixture, but to work your wrists, arms, shoulders, hips, abdomen. And I hope before you start this video you've spent 5 minutes sitting quietly, observing the breath, legs up the wall, lying flat on the floor. Whatever you do, a couple of deeper breaths and just letting go of all your muscles so that you start the practice, abandoning what you might have brought to the mat according to what you've done before the practice. So we're going to start in Uttanasana. So have your feet hip distance apart and have your feet coming straight forward. Take care they're not turning out or turning in, and draw up through your thigh muscles. Tuck your tailbone in, draw up through the crown of your head. We're keeping a long front spine here, and with strong legs we're coming forward. Keep the space between the hips and the navel when you come forwards, and hopefully you've got some support. Could be a chair, could be bricks, could be blocks. You can always put blocks under your bricks. Hands under the shoulders, hands coming straight forward, palms on the bricks, fingers stretching forwards, middle fingers straight forwards. Spend a little time pressing down on the heels, the balls of the feet, drawing up through the thigh muscles, keeping the front of the pubic bone tucked into the abdomen, really lengthening the front body and taking the shoulders back. Just look forwards on the ground, a little bit ahead of you, and get that strength in the legs and extension in the body. All right, from here, turn the blocks if you've got blocks. If you've got a chair, you can turn your hands so that the palms are going outwards. Just a different action on the shoulders. Keep the shoulder blades moving towards the hips. Keep lifting the fingers and breathe into the diaphragm. Make sure you've got breadth. The muscles are stretching away from the spine in the chest. And keep your shoulders back away from the ears. You're aiming for length without dropping the back waist. And then you can return the blocks to the original way round and see if you can manage to bring the wrists forwards here. Onto the blocks. Try to keep the arms straight, elbows straight. You may or may not be able to stretch the fingers behind you. Don't bring the shoulders forwards. Extend the body, firm feet, strong legs, breadth in the chest. Lengthen from the pubic bone to the navel, from the navel to the breastbone, from the breastbone to the collarbones. And see if you can lift and spread the fingers back towards your legs. All right, and then come all the way up. So we'll start with an ordinary dog pose. So place your hands so they come straight forwards. The wrists are parallel to the long edges or the front edges of your mat. And step back. Arms and feet hip distance, shoulder distance apart. You may need to bend your legs and press into your hands and lengthen the body, lengthen to the hips. Make sure the shoulders are away from your ears. And then keeping that height in the hips, that tucking in of the tailbone, straighten the legs. It doesn't matter if your heels don't end up on the floor, do keep the height in the hips. Now press on both sides of the wrists. Press on the thumbs, the index fingers, and also on the little finger side of the wrist. Lift the inner upper arms and lengthen the sides of the body. Press the thighs back, fill out the back of the thighs. Stretch through the front of the feet. All right, and then if you need to, bend your knees and you can walk your hands back and link the fingers around the upper arms and thumbs and just draw down over straight legs, unless your back is a little bit of a problem, and then bend the knees. Have length between the hips and the navel. This is the beginning of the practice, and there, as I always say, there are no targets. Just be sensitive. Pressing into the feet, drawing up through the thighs, filling out the back thighs, lengthening the side body. All right, and then you can come all the way up. Right, ooh, glasses have steamed up. Right, our second dog pose we're going to do with the bricks. You can do this with blocks as well. And you're going to put your bricks here into the skirting board, if you've got a skirting board. If you haven't got a skirting board, then you can use blocks. I would put them into some sort of firm surface so they're not going to slip. You can use blocks, and I don't think you need as many. And then you could put your bricks into the blocks like that. In fact, I'll show you here because you might see better. So you're going to put your hands sideways on the blocks. So that means you must have enough space so that the arms are shoulder width apart. And then you step back into your dog pose. Now you've got to press equally on both sides of the wrist if possible, and still rotate the inner upper arms to the ceilings. Feel how that helps to open the shoulders. Keep the legs strong. The stronger you make the legs, the less work on the shoulders. Press all the fingers down. Press the palms. Press the thumb side of the wrist and the little finger side of the wrist. Lengthen the sides of the body. Fill out the back thighs and stretch through the feet, the tops of the feet. All right, come forwards, release. You may like to try with your hands forwards on the blocks here. If you feel your hands are slipping on the blocks, you can always cover it with put the mat on the top. Hands are forward, step back. It gives a lift and extension to the shoulders. You can bend the knees and draw the chest a little nearer to the thighs. And then extend the legs back without losing that height in the hips. Make sure you've still got that width in the chest. So from the spine to the sides of the chest, you can feel some broadening when you breathe. All right, and then come up. And then one last way, of course, is to take the hands this way with the wrists forwards, away from you. And here again, you may not be able to achieve the dog pose you would normally achieve, but just see how much you can stretch back. Try to keep both sides of the wrist down and keep the shoulder blades moving into the back. Okay, and then come up. Right, we're going to try handstand now. So for those of you who are menstruating or you have a back problem, simply do your dog pose with your feet into the wall. You could have your heels up the skirting board, and if possible you could bend your knee and see if you can stretch your leg up the wall, one leg at a time. For those of you who are able to go up, then we're going to put the hands in this way round, away from the wall, and then you can walk your feet up the wall, ideally making a square shape. So pressing on the hands, lifting up through the spine, pressing the legs up to the ceiling. Don't hold too long, it's better to come down and have a couple of tries. If you want to be really exact, you sit at the wall, measure how far your feet are away, and then when your heel is, that is where you will put the heels of your hand so that your body is vertical and your legs are horizontal. So here again, you could try with your hands out, just as we did in dog pose, and see how you go. Take one leg up to try, take the other leg up, and then see if you can straighten the legs. Still breathe, get that width in the chest. And don't worry if you can't hold it very long. All right. So now we're going to do Trikonasana. And I'm going to do it with my foot into the wall. It just gives you a little bit of stability. And I'm going to ask you to use a brick for your front leg, for behind your front leg. So because I'm using the wall, you put your left foot into the wall and you want to run the outside edge of the foot down the wall so that the arch lifts. And then you take up about a 4.5 foot stride with your right foot, and then you turn the foot, the toes out, the heel in, so that the heel is in line with the arch. And bring the brick here behind the shin. And remember, you can put more blocks underneath it if you can't reach with a long body, or you could use a chair. Hips face forwards, tailbone tucks in so the abdomen doesn't drop, and your whole body faces forwards. Keep the length in the right side. Press the little toe edge of the left foot down and stretch over that right hip, keeping this length from hip to navel. And then you can put your hand on the brick. Now what I want you to do is to try to turn that hand, if you can, all the way round, because that will help to tuck that bottom shoulder blade into the back. And then you turn the abdomen, turn the chest, and take the top arm up. So firm feet, just like dog pose. Firm lifting thighs, tailbone in, long body, turning the body. Only look up if it's comfortable for you, and make sure you've got that bottom shoulder blade moving back into the back body, pressing on the brick and lifting up out of that bottom arm. All right, and then we'll come up. Lift your brick, turn around. So now it's the right foot that is into the skirting board. Turn the left toes, bring the left heel in, place the brick. Turn the body to face forwards, level the hips. Now my knee likes to come in a bit, so it helps if I slightly overturn that foot out to make sure that knee is looking straight ahead. Stretch the arms. Tuck the tailbone in. Breathe in and then extend. Firm legs long body, come to the brick, and you can keep your hands forwards if that's easier for you and you prefer, but otherwise do try to turn the hand around. Keep the arm under the shoulder so you can draw that shoulder blade back away from the neck, because we want the whole body to be long. Turn the body. Take the top arm up. So turn the body from the tailbone. Tailbone is forwards. Left buttock tucks under. Turn the waist. Turn the chest. And breathe. Keep that breath in the diaphragm, in the ribs, moving away from the spine. All right, and then come all the way up. Okay, Parsvakonasana. So we'll do that again with the left foot into the wall. This is the bent-legged, front-facing side angle pose, and by all means you can use a brick behind the front foot. So take a slightly wider stride. Turn the toes out, heel in, facing forwards, stretch the arms, bend the front knee. Come down so this thigh is parallel to the floor. Try to keep this buttock in. Okay, and this knee has to go back. And then you can stretch over, long body. You can place your hand on the brick. If you can, see if you can turn it back to tuck that shoulder in. Press that little toe edge of the back foot down and hit that back leg away. Turn the whole body. Take this arm up. Look up if you can. Keep hitting the front knee into the front arm. Turn the top hand. Take it over by your ear if possible. And have that long body stretch from the outer heel on the left foot to the left fingers. Keep the shoulders away from your ears. Okay, and then come all the way up. And then the other side. So the right foot is into the wall, left foot away from the wall. Turn the toes, bring the heel in. Face forwards, level hips, stretch the arms as much as possible. Breathe in. As you breathe out, bend the knee. Come to a right angle. Try not to turn the hips, keep them facing forwards. Take this hand onto the brick, either facing forwards or facing back. Remember, you can make it higher with blocks. You could use a chair. And then turn the body. Take the top shoulder back. Keep it back as you lift the top arm. Turn the arm. Take it over your ear. Keep the shoulders back. Bottom shoulder blade in. Press on the bottom hand. Lift up through the bottom arm. Make the back leg strong. Turn the abdomen. Turn the chest. Long left side of the body. And then come all the way up. And release. Okay. So, we're going to do Virabhadrasana 1. So you're going to have your feet into the wall here. If you've got a wall, if you haven't got a wall, it doesn't matter. Turn the left toes out 45 degrees or about 3 inches. Step forward, maybe twice. Same length of stride as the last pose, and turn the hips. Both hips in this pose have to face forwards. Also, the tailbone needs to go in so that the back waist comes back. All right. We're going to keep our hands on our hips and bend the front knee. Try to really let that front buttock sit down so that the front thigh is parallel to the ground. If need be, if your heel is coming up or difficult to maintain on the ground, then you could rest it into the wall. Lift the tummy, and then if your back's all right with this, take your arms forwards, take them all the way up, and then you could cast your gaze either up to where the wall meets the ceiling, or if you can maintain your balance, you can take your head to look at the ceiling. Lower your shoulders. Keep your shoulder blades into your back. Long front body. All right. And then step forwards, come up. Come back to the starting point. Feet together. Take the right toes out. Step forward with the left. Turn your hips. Lift the tummy. Lengthen the body. Shoulders down. Hands on the hips. Bend the front knee. Keep the back leg strong and straight. Remember to lift the heel onto the wall if your heel is struggling. Now, with my hands on my hips, I can put my thumbs on the sacrum, that broad flat bone at the base of the spine, and I can move that right side of the sacrum forwards. Then bring the arms forwards, take them up, keep them straight, look up, look all the way up if you can. Keep lifting from the hips up to the fingers, but keep the shoulder blades down on your back. Breathe into the whole breadth of the chest. Warrior pose. All right, and then you can step forward to come up. And then you may like to, if you've got a wall, you can put your buttocks on the wall, you can take your feet hip distance apart. Remember, if your back is sore, you can bend your knees to come forwards. And come forwards to the long body here. And you can either have your hands coming down to the ground by your feet, or perhaps around the back of your legs. You can let your head go, but try not to round the chest. Use this as a moment to relax a little. Let the neck lengthen away from your shoulders. Keep the shoulder blades into the back. Keep the length between the hips and the navel. If you've straight legs, then draw up the thigh muscles. Fill out the back thigh. Soften your face. And feel that breath from the spine to the sides of the chest. Okay, and then look forwards and come all the way forwards. Okay, so now if you did handstand, then we're going to do slightly a bit like elbow balance, sort of form of handstand. We'll try it with dog pose first of all. So we're going to try initially with the elbows on the ground and the hands interlocked, elbows shoulder width apart, tuck the toes under and lift the hips up. You can press the legs back, lift the shoulders up and back. Your head is not on the ground. You can look forward slightly. Try to really lengthen the front body. Draw up through strong legs. Okay, and then bend the knees and come down. So you can either repeat that or come back to measuring your leg length. If you want it to be a little bit easier, you would come a bit more further away from the wall, and then you can put your elbows here, link the fingers, change the interlock of the fingers. You can either repeat what we've just done or come up here and then take your feet up the wall. And lift up through your shoulders, tuck your tailbone in, tip your back in. Remember to breathe and keep the chest broad. Strong arms, strong legs. Okay, and then come down. Right, so we're going to lie down for a moment with your knees bent and with a brick or a block, it doesn't matter, and put the brick between your thighs. Lie down. So feet are together if possible. Keep the pelvis moving towards the feet, tuck the shoulders under, and all I want you to do is to squeeze the thighs. Now, if you've got suffer with your back, this is quite a safe way to exercise the abdominals a little. And you can squeeze for a few seconds, keep squeezing, and then release for a moment. And then squeeze again. Just watch where you are squeezing. So are you squeezing at the tops of the thighs, by the knees, middles of the thighs, and then release. Try coming up just onto either the balls of your feet or onto your tips of your toes. Try to keep your pelvis still moving towards your feet and squeeze the brick. So squeeze the whole brick from the knees, the middle of the thighs and the thighs. Okay, and release. Just let your feet come together and the knees drop out for a moment. Now remember, if this hurts your back at all, then simply rest in Baddha Konasana. Just breathe into the abdomen, let the area release. All right, so now take your brick once more, place it back between the thighs, and remember you can keep the feet on the floor if that's more comfy for you. But see if you can bring your lower legs parallel to the ground, and then squeeze the brick. Maybe you'll find this a bit easier. You squeeze the thighs, the tops of the thighs, the middle of the thighs, by the knees. Keep the waist and the pelvis moving towards the feet. Okay, and then release. Take the block out, let the knees drop out. Maybe move the block now away and take the arms out at shoulder height with the palms up. I just see I've got a little candle there. I don't know if it's getting in the way of your view. Right. So now, if you suffer with your back, you may like to, or you have a period, you may like to just let your legs rest on the ground, or if you can't get to the ground, put some blocks there. So bring your feet over the abdomen here. Lock the ankles and knees together. And then, keeping that, bring the knees to hover by the right elbow. Keeping the left shoulder down if possible. Now the top knee will want to creep back towards your left hip. So try to keep it over the right knee and try to keep the thighs near to the body. And then return to the centre, realign the legs, and then take them over to the left. Watch the right knee. Watch the right shoulder. Keep the shoulder blade tucking down. Breathe normally. Bring the thighs nearer to the chest. And then come back to centre. Rest for a moment. You may like to try it with the knees resting on the ground. So we'll bring the knees here. And then we'll take the knees over to the right and let them rest on the ground by the right elbow. So it's not down by the waist. Now, you might find your left shoulder comes up, and one little trick to get it down more firmly is to lift the right side of the chest and draw the right shoulder blade towards the right hand. This increases the twist in the chest. Everything above your waist is going to the left. Everything below your waist is going to the right. Jatahara Parivartanasana, the revolved stomach pose. And then bring the knees up to the centre. Breathe in. As you breathe out, go over to the left. Let the knees rest. Lift the left shoulder blade, move it to the left so you can anchor that right shoulder down. Just look straight up to the ceiling. Draw the knees and thighs nearer to your chest. Are you breathing in to broaden the chest? Are your eyes soft? Is your throat soft? Just release a little of the effort. Let the body rest in the position. All right, and then bring the legs back and let the legs be here. Now, if you have a bad back or a period, you may very well like to, at this point, because we're going to do a couple more abdominal exercises, you may very well like to come up to the wall sideways. Take your legs up the wall. Tuck your shoulders under and then take the legs apart. Keep them at the same level, keep the legs straight, keep the pelvis moving to the wall. For the rest of us, we're coming up to sitting. And what you need to do is to try, and I can see here, now you want to keep that spine drawing into the body and the shoulders back and down. We can take the arms behind and see if you can draw the lower back in, draw the upper back in, and look straight ahead. So it's really drawing the sacrum in and that lumbar in above the sacrum. See if you can do that and bring the hands forwards here. So this is requiring a little bit of effort on the abdomen. Now, if you're okay with this, maybe you can let your legs hover and keep drawing in. Draw the lower back in, lift the chest, and then just rest the legs for a moment. That might be enough. Remember, however it is for you is the perfect experience for you at the moment. Okay, so let's bring the legs back. Lift up. Maybe hold behind the knees. Lift the legs. Let the chest lean back. See if you can bring the legs level with the floor or parallel with the floor. See how that is? And then if you can let one arm come in front here and two arms. Okay? See how this is? Keep lifting the lower back, keep lifting the chest. Take the big toes away, draw the little toes back towards you. Okay, and then release for a moment. Catch your breath again. And then come back, holding the knees. Bring the legs back here. And then you may like to either stretch one leg up or stretch two legs up. Release one arm, release two arms. See how that is. Okay, and then catch the legs and come back. Right. Now then, extend your legs. That was Paripurna Navasana, the full boat pose. This is Ardha Navasana, the half a boat pose. So, link your fingers, draw them to the back of your head. Bring the elbows in as if you're going to do a headstand. They're not sort of going out, they're coming in. And draw the lower back in. Then you'll need to lean back a little bit more now, and you can round the chest. Now, when you lean back to a certain extent, the feet will feel light. Now, you can either lift one leg up if that's what's available to you, or ideally you lift two legs up. Now, it's not very far from the ground this time, only about 30 degrees. And you look straight ahead at your feet. Keep that width in the chest. Okay, and release. We better do that again for people who only lifted one leg. So you can do the other leg. So this time, don't do your favourite cross of your fingers. Do the other cross. Okay, draw up through your spine. Lean back. And then when your feet want to lift the feet. Remember, you're lifting the lower back, but you can round the chest a little bit so you can look straight at your feet. Keep the legs straight if you can. Draw the inner ankles towards each other, the big toe side of the foot away, the little toe side of the foot back to your hips. And then come up. And then you may want to just bring the feet together, take the buttocks back and rest forward for a moment, catch your breath. And if your legs are up the wall, you may like to bring the legs back together and then roll to one side to come back up. Just must keep an eye on the time. Okay, we're going to sit cross-legged. and we're going to come forwards over cross legs. So make sure you're comfortable, make sure you've got enough padding under your feet, and so I'm going to make a little bit more here. And also, if your knees are up in the air, then do sit up higher on a block. Now you can take the flesh of the buttocks diagonally back, so you're sitting on the centre buttock, and it's there that you want to stay. Now we're going to do a twist first of all, so we're going to twist to the right. So here, take your left hand on your knee, your right hand behind, draw up through the spine and turn. Now keep your shoulder blades on your back. Don't bring that left shoulder blade forwards. Keep it back. Use your hands like little levers to turn. And then come back to the front. Lift up, breathe in. And as you breathe out, go to the left. Keep weight on both buttocks. Draw up from the sacrum. Lift up the lumbar. Lower the shoulder blades. Turn the abdomen. Use that right hand to help you to turn the abdomen. Turn the navel. Turn the chest. The breastbone. Keep length from the hips to the navel. And then turn round. Okay, now I haven't specified which leg is in front, but it doesn't matter as long as you change the next time. So, if you're sitting up high and it's hard for you to reach the ground with a straight body, then use these bricks to put your hand on. That is absolutely fine. So we're walking the hands a little bit forwards, but press on the hands to keep the whole buttock down, remember. The direction on the thigh is from the knee back into the groin, and then the abdomen comes forwards. So you're walking here, but you're not bringing your shoulders forwards. You're keeping your shoulder blades on your back. You may also like to have the brick as a support for your forehead. That's quite restful as long as you bring the skin of the forehead towards the nose rather than up towards the forehead or the hairline. You could perhaps bring the brick a little more down. And then in your own practice, you may like to keep this pose for a little while and breathing in from the spine to the side ribs. In the front body and in the back body. Keep the elbows lifted. Keep the fingers awake and pressing into the ground. Keep the buttocks firm. Okay, and then come all the way up. Change the cross of the legs. Hands in front, long body. Walk forwards. Spread all the fingers out. Make sure the wrists aren't turning in or out. The elbows lift. And then see, take your time. This pose isn't achieved instantaneously. One side may be completely different to the other. Remember to flex your feet. And you may want to just draw those outer ankles in a little. Don't let them collapse to the floor. Get that breadth in the chest, the softness in the eyes. And then come all the way up. Right, now I want to do another sort of stretch for the hips, and you may very well want to sit on one or two blocks for this. So, we're going to start, you can start from a cross-legged position with the right leg in front, but what what we want to do is to take the left leg behind us. So this left leg stretches behind you and turns over so that the back of the left thigh is looking up to the ceiling, and you try to lift up here. So that may not be available, so you might want to get some blocks, 1 or 2, put them under the right thigh. And also you might want to, if I show you from this direction, you might want to also bring the front foot all the way back towards the left hip. It's a little bit harder if you bring the foot more parallel to the edge of the mat. Okay. And you lift up. So you need to tuck the tailbone in if you can, and try and draw up the lower abdomen and lift the chest. But don't put up with any pinching in the lower back or the waist. If that happens, then just come forward so that the back is long. And then if you can walk your hands a little bit forwards. Just feel, you may feel a stretch in the right outer hip and leg. Come down onto your elbows. And you may be able to stretch your arms out and come down to the ground. You want to feel that the the front of the left side of the pelvis is coming down towards the right foot. So from the spine, the left hip is moving away from the spine. And the right side of the abdomen is moving a little more to the right. Have you still got that spread in the chest from the spine to the side ribs when you breathe? All right, and come all the way up and release. And then the left leg bends and the right leg goes all the way back. So remember, sit on a block. Put this block underneath. If it's at all difficult, or 2 blocks, or even 3, it doesn't matter. And then you can turn that whole thigh round and bring this right hip forwards, level with the left hip. Press on your hands to lift your body up. Requires a certain stretch on the front thigh of the back leg as well. Try to lift the inner back leg to the ceiling and bring the outer back leg to the ground. And then come down onto the elbows. And spread the arms if you can. Just go as far as is comfortable for you. Remember that the body releases slowly. Never go too fast into a pose, because your body will contract the muscles to protect you from damage. So just move with your breath. Let your out breath take you slowly into the pose. And don't move into somewhere that you feel you need to escape from. All right, and then come all the way up. Bring the feet in front. You can release the release the feet. So I'm going to do shoulder stand today. If you have a bad back or you're menstruating, then don't do shoulder stand. You may like to do Setu Bandha. We did this in the last lesson, so you can have up to 4 blocks, remember, for Setu Bandha. You have them in this way. You can have 1 or 2 blocks, it doesn't matter. These support your lower back. You're going to put your lower back on the blocks. You're going to take your shoulders to the ground. You're not going to have your waist or your chest on those blocks. You take the shoulders to the ground and hopefully your feet will be able to press into the wall, or here Mona pressing into the settee. Don't have the feet coming down if you're menstruating. That will be too much stretch on the abdomen and may not be comfortable at all if you have a problem in your back. But if you're going to do shoulder stand, I'm going to teach it with these blocks. So you need to have these blocks in a square pattern. So I'm going to put them here. Near to the wall, because if you're not used to doing the pose, you may like to walk your legs up the wall to achieve the pose. And you can, if you have a 5th block, you can put that here for your tailbone to rest on. So, if you have a belt, remember to make a loop in the belt that doesn't slip and make it shoulder width. Maybe a little bit wider if your shoulders are stiff. You don't have to use a belt, and if you're not used to doing the pose very often, then probably don't use the belt initially. Sit on the block, let the legs come up the wall, head on the ground, and don't have your shoulders right at the edge of the blocks, because your shoulders will roll forwards. So you press on the wall, the shoulders come up, okay, tuck the shoulders under a little bit more and take your hands to your upper back so that you have your palms on the upper back, fingers uppermost, supporting the upper back, and you can stay here. This is just as beneficial for you. If you know you can do the pose, you can either try one leg at a time, or you can bring the legs up to balance. You want to try to really lift from the upper back. Take the sacrum in and keep the legs, if you can, back from the pubic bone. Bring the feet together, draw the ankles in, extend the inner feet away, the outer feet a little towards you. We're using the blocks so your neck isn't compressed on the ground. It's a very much safer practice. Now, for those of you who are able, you can bring your legs forwards into halasana, the plough pose. You can let them come to the ground. You could put a chair behind you for your legs to come to the chair if you can't reach the ground. Keep supporting the back. Draw up through the spine. The hips come a little forwards. Keep the thighs lifting, the feet drawing together. And can you keep that breadth of breath in the chest? Release the eyes. Release the throat. Try not to crush your chin into your chest, Leave a gap for your throat. These poses can be held for longer than I'm showing you on this video for your home practice. Very good for your mental health, for the regulatory mechanisms in the brain, the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the thyroid gland, as blood moves from the feet to the brain. And then if you need to, you can bend your knees or take one leg at a time back up into the pose, or two legs, draw up, stretch up. Bend the knees. If you've got a belt, you may like to release the belt, and then you may like to also take the extra block if you've got it, and then you can come down and just rest with your head on the block for a moment. To let your breath return to normal. Or if not, you could always bring your shoulders to the ground here and just rest. In Setu Bandha, place your feet now onto the ground and lift your lower back and remove the blocks that are underneath you. And then when you're lying on the ground, you can draw your knees into your chest, just to spread the lower back. Now we're going to end the class with Shavasana. I will leave you here because I want to keep the video less than an hour. So remember, you're going to lie in a straight line. Do put your jumpers and socks on. Lie in a straight line. You can use a support for your head if you need it. You don't want your head to tip back. You come back. You might want to bend your knees, draw your lower back towards your feet, tuck your shoulders down onto your back, support your head if need be, turn the arms out, palms up to the ceiling, stretch the legs, let the legs turn out. Really extend each leg away from the pelvis, each heel away from your calf. Cover yourself in a blanket if need be. Close your eyes. Begin by feeling the weight of the body moving down into the floor. Gradually, as you breathe out, releasing the whole body. Normal breathing, but do be aware of that opening of the side ribs. Gradually moving into stillness, and that stillness brings a real inner